Hey guys, Venomous here, and I've got a brand new OTGT for you. Now today I'm talking about two gaming giants, okay? Especially in the world of RPGs, okay? Because I know if I did one, I had to do the other, and if I didn't do one, then a lot of fanboys are probably gonna get pissed at me, but even though I don't care, I'm still a fan of both of these games. That's Final Fantasy VII, as you could see, this, nice thing, and Final Fantasy VIII, okay? And yes, this is an original copy of Final Fantasy VIII. This isn't no greatest hits or nothing like this. This is a greatest hits because this is almost literally impossible to find an actual, original copy that's not a greatest hits. That's kind of like this one for the PlayStation 1, okay? So, for all intents and purposes, this is just a greatest hits. But yes, I've played the game originally as it's supposed to be. Now, okay, let's start off with, let's go in consecutive order. Let's talk about Final Fantasy VII. Why is this game so good, okay? Okay, as far as it being an RPG and a Final Fantasy game, okay? One, okay, this was the very first RPG, at the time that was, rendered in 3D, okay? It's the very first Final Fantasy that was rendered in 3D, okay? It was the very first Final Fantasy, okay, to really take to new heights the active time battle system, okay? Which is pretty much your characters do an action, then there's like a cooling down time before they perform their next action, or there's an actual startup time right before they do an action, which is like if they're casting magic or something like that. It actually takes a little time, real time, to actually do an action and stuff like that, whether it's attacking, casting magic, using a special ability, whatever. Okay. Also, what else was good? The really big thing that a lot of people got crazy about this game and why it's given such high praise is the story. Specifically in the story is like, I'm pretty sure everybody's played this game, so there's no spoilers ahead. But anyway, the part where Sephiroth kills Ares, okay? That part in the story, okay, is supposed to be almost the most emotionally impactful part in this game, okay? Why do I say that? Is because that's one of the main Final Fantasies, a character that you really connected to within the first disc, and you probably put a lot of time into actually grinding to actually, level her up and stuff like that, where she dies and you never get her back. So if you actually grind it and actually really put a lot of time into this game, with that specific character, which is Ares and stuff, and she died, all that work was gone to waste. So all the other characters that you didn't level up are pretty much stuck in low levels while you're trying to move on in the story. So there's more grinding on top of that. But as far as story-wise, that's really the part of the story that really got the most impacts, on players and stuff. Where they really, after that, it was like, oh, okay, Sephiroth, now it's go time. Now the gloves are off. Now you're going down, motherfucker, okay? And on top of that, it gave a lot of people a lot of satisfaction, for the first time, being an RPG in 3D, because Final Fantasy games are long, and some of them could be very hard, especially if you ever played the original 3, the 2D sprite Final Fantasy 3, what is it, you know how hard that game is. If you haven't, go look up how hard that game is, or get a copy of the, Nintendo DS remake. That game is tough, okay? This game is tough too. All Final Fantasy games are tough to a certain extent, but this was cool because it was the first in 3D, really impactful story. The battle system was pretty good for its time. What is it? They had the whole materia system with it, which was interesting, where you could actually equip different spells and stuff to specific weapons, which was pretty cool. And it had a lot of characters that a lot of people just really felt strongly about, and really had a lot of praise for. And this is why this particular game in the Final Fantasy series has gotten so many sequels and spin-offs and stuff, prequels and stuff like that. But anyway, this game is awesome. Okay, moving on. Okay, to the next one that was on the list that came after it. Okay, Final Fantasy VIII. This is personally one of my most favorite Final Fantasies of the entire franchise, okay? Reason being is because, one, I'm a huge Squall fan. I love the story of Squall and the rest of his companions, against the, Sorceress Ultimecia, okay, or Sorceress Idea, that some people call her, but, besides that, the battle system, it's got the same active time battle system, that was from Final Fantasy VII, just changed up a little bit, where in this one, yes, there is the cooldown time and stuff and startup time like that, kind of like how 7 was, but also, as opposed to actually, getting spells and, like, learning them and actually, being able to cast them using MP, in this one, you actually extract spells from your opponents, or the actual like enemies that you run into, and you store them. You could store up to 99 of almost every spell in this entire game, and you could also connect it to actual different abilities and stuff to your characters. It's called the junction system, where you could junction an actual guardian force, which is pretty much a summon, to a specific character, and have that character grow with that summon and pretty much gain stronger abilities and stuff like that, and ultimately in turn have the guardian force actually grow stronger as well. You get a bunch of different abilities while having specific summons junction to a character. What is it? You use different spells that you use can also power up the summon and make it stronger depending on how many times you've used the particular spell. What else is good? Okay, the story is great. Okay, it's really long. It's 4 discs, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's 4 discs. You know, from beginning to end. You know, it's the longest one Final Fantasy I have ever played. You know, as far as changing discs concerned. I know what is it? Final Fantasy 13 has 3 discs. I know that Final Fantasy 9 also has, I think it's about 3-4 discs, something like that. But I played 9. All extensive purposes. There. All extensive purposes, I feel this one is probably the longest one that is probably in the series. Maybe I could be wrong, but that's just my opinion. Okay, besides that, the enemies are pretty cool. It's the second game to actually go in 3D, which really made things really look kick-ass, as apart from like the whole cartoony-ish style that Final Fantasy VII was when it first came out in 3D. Because yes, they were 3D models and stuff, but they weren't on the level of sophistication that the models were in 8. Okay, so the characters actually look a little bit much more human-like than the characters in Final Fantasy VII. Even though you could argue that maybe one had a better story than the other. That's just, the clear-cut facts. Okay? Besides that, okay, the music. In this game, I love the music in this game. Some of the themes and stuff really stick to you. They stuck to me more from this game than they did in Final Fantasy VII, to be honest with you. Okay, because I love the battle theme. The battle theme is awesome. Battle theme in 7 is cool, but this one I give credit. Also, the opening symphony. Unlike in 7, which was the actual standard Final Fantasy theme, kind of like a nod to the original 2D Final Fantasies that they were doing. This one got its own original, opening theme for the first time. Before all the other, after that, all the other Final Fantasies 9 up pretty much followed suit while getting their own, opening score, I should say. Yeah, instead of opening theme, opening score, I meant. Okay? But overall, great game. Both games are classics. If you have not played these games, you should definitely go out and either get an emulator, try to find these games at your local GameStop or Play and Trade or something. Definitely get the time to sit down and play these 2 RPGs, because these are like one of the 2 big conglomerates in the RPG world as far as Final Fantasy. You could argue also Final Fantasy VI, as an honorable mention, because that has one of the greatest villains in my opinion. The original Final Fantasy from the very get-go. Final Fantasy X, if you haven't played that yet, it is a really big game. It's one of the really it's the first Final Fantasy game to actually really take 3D to a new level, actually make the character speak for the first time. These games don't have voiceover; it's all text like the original Final Fantasy games. Final Fantasy X, though, really brought the characters to speak, and you really connected to them on an emotional level because you actually got to hear their own voices and stuff, rather than just interpret the voices on yourself, with your own, interpretation of them. But anyway, these 2 Final Fantasies, Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, great games. Definitely you should play them. This is Venomous. I'm out. This has been Only the Goddamn Truth, and I'll talk to y'all later.